Jesus,
oh yeah, you see, that's the problem.
Get
Like,
your shit together, Kyrgyzstan.
That's the problem.
Those tough people over there,
that's
man.
some tough people, man.
How crazy has it been watching all these dudes from Dagestan
Oh my
just
God.
invade MMA
I knew it.
and dominate?
I knew it.
In recent years, Dagestan has become a powerhouse in the UFC, with a new generation of fighters dominating the octagon.
I don't think just because of their wrestling. I think it's because of their discipline. And I tell a lot of people that those guys don't think about anything else.
From Khabib to Islam, Zabit and beyond. Let's dive into how these warriors took over the UFC.
Out of Dagestan, Russia, presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world, Khabib
Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov, the man who changed the world of mixed martial arts.
He's honestly a beast, a scary beast. As long as he can touch you, as long as he has a hand on you, he can get the takedown.
He came into the game and started dictating his own rules, which the whole world soon had to respect. With incredible physical strength, superb conditioning, and a brilliant fighting IQ, he literally tormented his opponents in the cage. He combined brutal domination with a raw violence, as his opponents had nothing to offer against the Dagestani Eagle. He would alternate between beatings and conversation, being several levels above his competitors. He even talked to the UFC boss during his fights.
Lena, you wanna talk a little bit? You wanna talk a little bit? Hey, okay. You can we're gonna smash your boy. Yes, of course. Don't send the back.
Khabib cleaned out the entire division of prospects and contenders, taking the UFC lightweight title. What happened next is history. Khabib wanted to fight the best. He saw no one with equal strength who could cause him problems. His performances were so dominant that they all felt like one-sided beatings.
The reason this fight is so big is because it's two of the absolute best fighters in the world fighting in their prime when they should be fighting.
A man who conquered a bear at childhood will be wrestling Conor McGregor on Saturday night, UFC 229.
His first title defense was against the most popular, toughest, and most dangerous guy in the division. But the world didn't take Khabib seriously. Fans and experts didn't see him as a real threat and refused to acknowledge his talent until Khabib faced the once best pound-for-pound fighter. Khabib destroyed Conor and gained worldwide fame. Now the whole world knew about the incredible mixed martial arts school straight from the distant Dagestani mountains. Although everyone associated Khabib with wrestling, none of his opponents were fully able to prepare for it. There are levels in this game, and Khabib's level is the highest. When they signed the contract to face the Eagle, his legendary opponents already felt his dominance and invincibility. Embodiment of humility, restraint, and humanity. This man was deeply religious, but once the cage door closed, he became a true nightmare for anyone facing him in the octagon. Khabib Nurmagomedov is a whole story in the UFC, full of domination and brutality. With his arrival in the UFC, he introduced the Dagestani school to the world, paving the way for other promising fighters, and left the sport at the peak of his career.
I just love the fact that a guy escaped with 29-0.
Yeah.
It's a pretty impressive record, you know, and fought everybody. Fought everybody, mauled everybody, got to the top, fought the best guys, fought you, fought Justin, you know, silenced Conor, just did the thing, you know, got out.
Khabib said it from the beginning, right? He said, you're always going to lose. There's a time for your thing. He said it about Kamaru. He said it about Tony Ferguson. He said, these guys, they're going to learn the hard way. And then for me, he said if I stayed in, I'd probably end up losing sometime. I don't think he would lose, but yeah, like he said, like, you're thinking, like, I could still go with him, and I'm looking at this guy like, bro, you could be the heavyweight champion right now. It's like nuts.
When Khabib sensationally retired, the champion's belt was left vacant. The world thought it had lost its Dagestani champion, but, according to the plan of the great coach and father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, someone was quietly preparing in the shadows, waiting for his moment to step in as the true replacement for the Dagestani Eagle.
There is levels, there is fighters, there is champion, there is elite. And I think Islam is elite. This is what I think. This is what I feel when I train with him long time.
You may argue and disagree, but right now, Islam Makhachev has surpassed his mentor. Makhachev is a more refined version of Khabib, perfected not only on the ground, but in all aspects of the game.
You know, I think Islam is a better striker. You know, Javier Mendez said it himself. He said we can choose our poison. When you see Islam, he throws a lot of nice head kicks. They're very, very fluid. He has a lot of overhand rights. He has good head movement. He's slick. He's very, very slick. He's got good submissions, good wrestling, very well rounded.
While Khabib was magnificent in the grappling exchanges and imposed his will on his opponents, his full replacement in Islam Makhachev is the necessary addition to that style. If Islam is on par with Khabib in wrestling, his striking skills are clearly superior. Islam is not afraid to show himself in different areas. He's willing to exchange punches, work on precise attacks, and doesn't rush to use his wrestling advantage. It's worth noting that Islam's fights are incredibly entertaining.
And of course, Islam is very good on stand-up. Last couple years, people don't even touch him. They don't even touch him. And he fight with Drew Dober. All these guys, they good strikers, you know, they don't even touch him. You know, like even one time, two times, you know. Islam dominating them, all of them.
Makhachev has delivered some of the best performances of the year in his recent fights. Shed in black and gold befitting a champion. Side leg kick early for Makhachev. I think the idea that he was going to finish Volkanovski made it start to go sitting in that first one. This first shot. Yeah, he pokes it right away. Volkanovski's defensive wrestling was a big factor in that first fight. Well, and there's something. Makhachev has landed some really good kicks this one. Well, I suppose if any fighter could weaponize pace and cardio without a training camp, it would be Volkanovski, but that does figure to be a tough proposition. We all remember that incredible knockout of Alex Volkanovski and the brutal battle with Dustin Poirier. Makhachev is the force that keeps the entire division in fear. Is perfect in the stand-up, perfect on the ground, and perfect in terms of fighting IQ. Overall, he represents the ideal fighter who can excel in any area. They were well-rounded enough because you try to pressure him standing, he takes you down. If you try to, apply some jiu-jitsu, his wrestling's so good he doesn't allow you. So, from what I've seen, they haven't been able to put pressure on him because they don't have enough skills, the well-roundedness required to do that, and I think I'm the guy to do that. Right now, Makhachev is the best mixed martial artist, regardless of weight class. He's a bright and tough fighter who always shows his best version. He's constantly evolving and growing as a fighter, and it's hard to imagine anyone who can defeat him. Islam Makhachev, at the peak of his career, will leave no room for competition. This guy is young and fiery, and he will show us many more spectacular fights. Zabit Magomedsharipov was the hottest prospect around, and by a mile. I see him as a champion. No, and I see him as a champion for years. Whenever he gets the opportunity for a title, he'll win it. Zabit Magomedsharipov is one of the most promising and brightest stars in MMA, whose potential remains largely untapped. Unfortunately, the world never got to see what this guy was truly capable of. Zabit is one of the greatest mysteries in UFC history. He's long been called What If, and this nickname perfectly describes him as a fighter. What if Zabit hadn't retired and kept fighting? It's clear that at the time of his active career in the featherweight division, he was the most dangerous guy in the division.
He might go down as one of the biggest what ifs in UFC history because it looked like the ceiling was so high.
Mate, he was very, very well-rounded. He was a great fighter. Obviously, he just had that issue, that gas tank issue, which can be dealt with.
Right.
You know, like right now, for all this time he had off, was him trying to improve that. You know what I mean? And getting, being able to still have that exciting style that he has, but being able to, control his cardio as well at the same time, because it's going to be hard to do the two if you're going to be all out.
His striking skills were stunning. His grappling was at a phenomenal level, and he embodied a true predator who would go on the hunt as soon as the cage door closed. In his short but incredibly bright career, Zabit fought the best in the division. He was so dominant that he seemed several levels above all his opponents. This guy put on gladiatorial fights in the cage, filled with violence, brutality, and blood. When stepping into the octagon, Zabit was focused and determined. leaving his opponent with no chance of winning, turning them into a bloodied mess. Zabit was a well-rounded fighter, showing enormous control on the ground, but he also wasn't afraid to exchange strikes and test his opponent's strength in the stand-up game. Despite his brutal fights, in life he remained a humble and reserved person, deeply devoted to his religion. He retired with a record of 18 wins and 1 loss. He hung up his gloves while being the top contender for the title. Unfortunately, we'll never know what this guy could have achieved, but Zabit Magomedsharipov will forever remain one of the greatest mysteries in the world of MMA.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody in Russia, everybody in Dagestan, my entire team, my coaches, Javier Mendez. Thank you so very much.
Congratulations, sir. Umar Nurmagomedov, ladies and gentlemen.
The most
beloved prospect of Joe Rogan and the cousin of Khabib, Umar Nurmagomedov is a young, undefeated Dagestani fighter, currently competing in the UFC. He learned the basics of combat sambo under the guidance of Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, trained alongside Khabib and Islam Makhachev, and Javier Mendez believes Umar will become a UFC champion with ease. In 2020, Nurmagomedov signed with the best organization in the world, where he put together a streak of 5 victories. His most recent fight was against the well-known Corey Sandhagen, in which Umar won by unanimous decision. Umar embodies the very same dominance as Khabib Nurmagomedov, showcasing a style that mirrors his famous cousin. What's especially exciting is that Umar has finally earned his title shot. Standing in his way is the reigning champion, Merab Dvalishvili. The two have long waited to settle the Papa clash, black versus white, and now they have their chance. Moreover, Merab has often made unsavory remarks about fighters from Russia and Dagestan, which makes Umar incredibly motivated. There's no doubt about it. It's safe to say that Umar Nurmagomedov is still in the process of developing as a fighter. He's exceptional in his performances, and his style and approach to fighting make his bouts exciting and intriguing. He's yet to become the best version of himself, and in the fight against Merab Dvalishvili, we'll witness an incredible showdown of schools and techniques, with the outcome likely leading to the rise of a new champion straight out of Dagestan. The brightest prospect in the UFC, this guy suddenly emerged from nowhere and announced himself to the world. Sharabullet is sensationally on a 15-fight winning streak and is considered the top prospect in the welterweight division. His fighting style is a true spectacle for fans. He's already targeting the biggest names in the division and didn't hesitate to challenge the former dominant champion, Israel Adesanya. Despite having a relatively modest number of victories in the UFC, he already represents a huge threat to the best fighters in the division. If you look at his fighting style, he doesn't resemble a typical Dagestani fighter, as he rarely uses ground game advantages. This guy steps into the octagon only to inflict unbearable pain and suffering on his opponents.
My job is to put as much damage on my opponent and beat them down.
He's still young, but has already achieved many great feats. He is not in a rush and is gradually moving toward the top. In his bouts, he's incredibly smart, demonstrating exceptional stand-up skills. His fighter IQ is at a very high level, and he prefers brutality and violence. He loves to engage in a brawl and drag his opponent into deep waters, where he tortures them.
I just love to hurt people and make sure that I hurt him as much as I can in the fight, so I didn't want to let him survive this, but somehow he survived and went through it.
Arguably, this guy is the most dangerous, toughest, and most interesting name in the division. What's particularly impressive is that despite the lack of opposition from the top 5, he's already looking to fight former champions and contenders.
Step by step, I will become a champion. Remember my name. This is my division. Yeah, I do. The pirate is here.
That's where Petrosian's got to go. Pretty good moments here for the Armenian as Sharabullet returns fire. Right hand got through for Magomedov, and now a body kick for Sharabullet. Oh my God! Sharabullet does it again with the walk-off KO!
He's on a mission for the title, and he won't stop at anything to achieve his longtime dream.
And the cherry on top is the main threat to Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev. His journey in the UFC was quite challenging, but he emerged to build his legacy the right way. Ankalaev made his UFC debut in London against Scotsman Paul Craig. The Russian dominated his opponent throughout the fight, being superior in both striking and grappling. But just seconds before the fight ended, he tapped out due to a submission. This remains the only loss of his professional career. In October 2017, Ankalaev signed a long-term contract with the UFC. Before UFC 294, he had fought 11 times in the octagon, losing only in his debut, securing 9 victories and earning a shot at the vacant title in his division. The championship fight against Jan Blachowicz at UFC 282 in Las Vegas on December 10, 2022, went in Ankalaev's favor, but the fight ended in a controversial draw after the judge's decision, leaving fans dissatisfied. Since then, Ankalaev has secured 2 victories over Ulka and Rakic, and right now, he is the #1 contender for the title. Despite Alex Pereira's threat, his skills on the ground leave much to be desired. Ankalaev will surely attempt to drag Pereira into deep waters and dictate the pace of their fight. In any case, Ankalaev is the one fighter who possesses a significant threat to the champion. He has every chance of shifting the balance of power in the division, and next year, we may very well see this legendary showdown. What do you think about the Dagestani era in the UFC? Do you enjoy their fights? Share your thoughts in the comments.